when people look at me, they won't automatically think black. They'll probably think like white or some kind of Latina. She's a white Latina.
Yeah, some kind of mix.
Right. So that's the thing. Do you think that there is, because we both know that, I mean, Latinos are so we're such a heterogeneous group. Do you think that the mural itself does a good job capturing that one experience or the multitude of experiences of Latinos?
I mean, I think it's really hard for a single piece of art to convey more. I mean, to be honest, I think the mural speaks more to Maria's experience of me, of being around me, than my experience itself. You know, it's really complicated because there are all these lenses in between. And sort of like, she's not an Afro-Latina, you know, she obviously has a totally different understanding of what that is.
Right.
So, no, I guess my answer is no, I don't think it does, but I don't think it has to either. I don't think that we can expect that of any one single piece of work, you know.
Now, with that being said, how do you feel about your body, your face, yourself being presented in this public space at Amherst? Because I know we spoke about you feeling a little ambivalent about this because I think permission wasn't asked of you at some point in order for this to go up beforehand, because at that point, you know, once Maria had created this, it's under her name, it's her project. So what, can you speak a little bit more about that situation?
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, I obviously agreed to the mural. She told me all the details. She told me where it was going to be. You know, I felt awkward about it being in somebody's office because they're going to be looking at my face all the time. But I agreed to that, and that was okay. What bothered me were the pamphlets for the Latino Studies major, because I wasn't informed about the image, you know, and it gets weird because it's like, again, it's a picture of the mural, which is like a drawing of me, so it's not directly an image of me, I guess.
But it's being distributed everywhere.
But it is being distributed everywhere, and I wasn't informed about it, you know, like I walked into Fayweather one day, and it was on a bulletin board, and it was my face, and I was like, what is this? And I hadn't even seen the final mural yet.
Wow. So that was your first time.
So that was my first time experiencing it. I didn't even know where it was coming from. I was just like, wait, this is my face.
Oh, wow.
Why is it on a bulletin board? So then I took that one thing.
Yeah.
And then I went to the MRC and I realized that they were everywhere. And I was like, what is going on?
Oh my God.
But my issue with that is that, you know, I don't think that I would have said no if I would have been asked, but it would have been nice for me to not just walk into a space and see my face as an advertisement for something that I didn't know was going to be advertised. And so that becomes problematic because, you know, I'm a person of color, and
right,
and we all know that the school loves to wave their diversity flag. And I didn't consent to, like, my image being on display in this way. So, you know, there are underlying implications in that I think nobody thought about. Like, nobody that was making these decisions about.
Right.
I don't think anybody thought about that. I don't think the school thinks about that in general, about, like, who you're putting on your web page and your pamphlets and all of these things. And it's great to have people of color on them, but it would also be great if the people who were on them would choose to be on them.
So it becomes a question of agency.
Yeah. You know, and like ownership in a way, right? Because it's like, who does this image belong to? It's an image of my face, but it doesn't belong to me.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of the questions that I get asked about the mural are not questions that I can answer. Those are questions from Maria. And I think that we're getting conflated as the subject and the artist in a lot of ways, because I can't tell you what Maria was thinking when she picked when she decided to draw my hair that way. I don't know. You know, in a way, like in a lot of ways, like, yes, it's a mural of me, but in a lot of ways I feel disconnected from it. I didn't. I sat in Amherst Commons for a few hours, in one weekend. You know, 2 days of one weekend.
Yeah. And
that was, and like Maria and I had like a previous relationship, so you know, obviously she probably drew from all of that as well.
Right.
But that was my contribution, and I didn't, you know, I wasn't looking over her shoulder when she was painting it. I wasn't telling her what to do. I didn't ask her any questions about it. I just said yes, you know. I felt flattered that somebody wanted to paint a mural of me, and I said yes, and that was it. I didn't think that it was going to be part of a conversation about my Latino identity.
In terms of the Latino Studies department, or potential Latino Studies department, or Latin American Studies being formed here at Amherst, do you think that'll be possible in the near future? Even with this merging of American Studies and Latino Studies, with Professor Schmaltz-Bauer and Professor Del Moral teaching courses?
I mean, so first of all, I love the two of them. I think they're both absolutely amazing professors.
They're amazing.
But I think that the merging of the two in a way is problematic, because I think it's just sort of buying time. You know, it's sort of, it's neglectful. I think it's neglectful because you know, there's no reason for us not to start a real Latino Studies department. And I think that when you're like conflating the two right now, it's just like,
right,
it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be harder for us to sort of want to separate those things later on. And it's going to be hard for students to make demands to separate those things, because the school can just say, well, you have all the classes, you have all these things, but it's within a different department. And I think the school should also understand that it's also a statement for you to acknowledge that Latino studies is a subject worthy of study, you know? And I think what they're trying to do is like sort of make it the subgenre when it's not a subgenre whatsoever.
When you say that it isn't a subgenre, are you also referring to the fact that there's a diaspora that is not being accounted for here?
Yeah, I mean,
within American Studies alone? Because I agree with you. I think American Studies is limiting in that sense. It's more about the U.S.
Yeah. Well, yeah, of course. There's that one aspect where like you're limited to geographical area.
Yeah.
Although we do have other classes. I mean, I have to say, like, I just don't understand how it's not possible, because we have professors who already teach classes outside and who are very capable of teaching classes about Latin America, about all of these things.
Or co-teaching classes.
Exactly. So,
yeah.
I mean, you know, Professor Corrales,
Professor Lopez.
There are a lot of professors who are very capable and already are interested in these subjects and in, you know,
Professor Stavins even.
Yeah. So
because we have a Black Studies department.
Yeah.
We have an Asian civilization
and we understand
languages.
that
right.
Black Studies and Asian Studies should not be some subgenres of some large ethnic studies thing or a subgenre of American Studies, because you could say, you know, Black Studies focuses primarily on the U.S. I mean, we have, you know, like diaspora requirements, but you could make the argument that
there's a focus.
I mean, and we're talking about if we're talking about African American people, that falls under American. But the thing is, there's a different department because we recognize that there's a different lens to look at that history. It's it's the same thing with Latino studies. You can't approach these topics in the same way. There's And it's also absolutely ridiculous to say that when literally every other school has a Latino Studies department. Everybody else has recognized that there is a need for there to be a different, separate department. Why can't we do the same?
Right. It makes perfect sense. It's going to be a struggle from now on, but my hope is that at some point we don't have to think of the 5 college certificate as being, you know, the answer, because it's not. The certificate in and of itself is a major.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, I've heard it's like you have as many requirements as a major, which you might as well award if you're taking the time to take all those classes, you shouldn't have to double major with something else, which you have to. I'm
going to get the certificate because I already have the necessary classes to fulfill it. But if I had the option of doing a major, because I have all these courses...
Yeah, you wouldn't have to major in 2 different things.
Exactly.
And believe it or not, some people don't want to double or triple or...
Exactly. Because it gets really messy. Anyway, Yenifer, thank you so much for taking the time, especially during finals week, to speak with me around this topic, and happy finals, and I hope you had a great semester. Thank you so much for
inviting me. I love your Dominican flag headband.
Oh, thank you. You know I gotta represent.
Yeah, somebody has to around here.
You already know. Okay.